Good day, ladies and gentlemen. You are welcome to Apex Easy Learning. I'm P. Sam. Today we'll be looking at statistics in mathematics. Statistics. When you talk about the statistics, we talk about the branch of science or of mathematics which deals with collections, analysis, interpretations, and presentations of data. And it is applicable in different fields. It's applicable in science, even we have its industrial applications, and we also use it to solve some social problems. The first thing we'll be looking at is data. Since we said statistics involve the data collections or analysis of data, so we'll be looking at data. When you talk about data, data is any numerical fact or informations which can be measured. A numerical fact or information that can be measured. Data collections involve the gatherings of variables. The variables, when you talk about the variables are events or occurrences that may take different values. You can take the masses, height, ages, scores of students in classes, or masses of a group of people in a particular location, the heights and the rest. These are the examples of variables. We have different examples of data. We can collect data from schools. For example, the number of students in science class, the number of students in art class, and the number of students in commercial class. That is collections of data. We can also compile together the numbers of COVID-19 patients in each state of federation, that is Nigeria. Then also, we can talk about the numbers of Toyota cars using a particular road, or even another brand of cars using a particular road. That is data collection. When data are collected, the first things we do is to analyze, then we summarize, then interpret before they can be used for whatever purpose for which they are collected. For example, we have the record shows the weight of students in SS1 class. In SS1 class, when you look at it, those are the weight of those students in that class. And we can bring out an observations from this. The first observations, one of the observations you can bring out is that the number of students in that class are 30. If you look at it, if you count it, each rows have 10 numbers. If you look at it, which means we have altogether 30. Another things we can bring out of that is that the least weight is 18. If you look at it, the smallest weight there is students with 18 mass. That is 18 weight. Another thing there is the highest weight is 40. If you look at it, there is no any weight that is more than 14 in that class. We have other things that we can also observe in those things, but those are just the few things that we just mentioned. You also can think of things you can bring out of this, the observations that you can draw out of this data. But another things we need to look at before we go deep into this is frequency. Frequency, first of all, we need to talk about the table. The frequency table deals with the tabular form of representing data. We can use frequency table to represent a data, meaning we have tabular form of representing data can be done using frequency table. We can draw a table and bring all the data within the table for easier usage. Then we have frequency itself. Frequency is the number of times a particular data occurs. The number of times a particular data occur. If you look at the data we presented up, we can look at it. 18s occur how many times? We can count it. We have 1, we have 2, we have 3, we have 4, we have 5, we have 6, we have 7, meaning 18 occurs 7. So we put it in a table. So that is how we know the number of times a particular data occur. And when you look at it, we can summarize this in a table very easily. We can summarize it in a table. If you look at it, this is the constructions of frequency table. When you look at that, the weight 18 is 7. When we counted it the other time, 18 is 7. And when you look at it, another thing there is 20. Look at 20 there. How many 20 do we have there? We have 20, we have 1, we have 2, we have 3, we have 4, we have 5. And when you look at it, we have how many? We have 520. If you go to there, if you see 25 as well, is the next value. We have 25, we have 1, we have 25, we have 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we have 525. If you look at it, that is 25 is 5. Then if you count the 30 also is 10, and 40 is 3. So this is how we present a frequency table. Now we also have frequency for group data. Now when we have a group data, it means that we have the number of entries in a given data very large. We have it large to the extent that there is no way we can draw the frequency table. When you look at this now, for instance, the below are the ages of students attending a music class. We have 13 there. How many 13 do we have there? We don't have more than 1. We have another number, so we have 12. We even have 8. We have 15. If you look at them, these numbers are so wide. The range is wide. So for that, we need to group this data into different groups. Now, but we have parameters that we use in grouping this. One of it is the class interval. The class interval is the number of group a particular data is classified. The number of group a particular data is classified. Like that one that we just presented, we can have the data group into 1 to 5, meaning all the numbers that is between 1 and 5, we put them under this group. Then we have 6 to 10, we have 11 to 15, we have 16 to 20, and so on and so forth. Or we can increase it and increase the range between them to 10, 1 to 10, 11 to 20, 21 to 30, 31 to 40, and so on and so forth. So that is the class interval. So if we are grouping this data, if you look at it, we can group that data simply based on this 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, like that. So that is how we grouped the data. Another thing we must look at is the class limit. The class limit at the end of the class interval. When we look at it, the class interval, we said 1 to 10, 11 to 20, 21 to 30. When you look at it, the end of the class interval is the class limit. Here in that first one, 1 to 10, the lower class limit is 1, meaning we have class limit 1, which is the lower, and we have upper class limit as 10. If you look at the second class, 11 to 20, it means in that second class we have 11 as the lower class limit of the second class, while 20 is the upper class limit. So that is how we look at the class limit. When you go to the third one, the 21 is the lower, the 30 is the upper. Now another thing there is the class boundary. Class boundary. The class boundary is the midpoint of the class limit of one class and the lower class limit of the subsequent class. When you look at it, we have 0.5 to 10.5, 10.5 to 20.5. The next one is going to be 30.5, 20.5 to 30.5, and so on and so forth. So that is what we call the class boundary. If you look at the next one, another thing there is the class mark. How do we find the class mark? The class mark is the midpoint of any class interval. It is derived by adding the lower and the upper limits and divide it by 2. So when you divide the result by 2, it will give us the class mark. When you look at this, 1 plus 10 divided by 2 give us 5.5, meaning the class mark for that first one is 5.5. Then the second class, we have the lower and the upper, 11 and 20. Add it together, it gives us 31, divided by 2 give us 15.5. The next class is 21 plus 30, which gives us 51, 25.5. Like that, that is the next class is going to be 31 plus 40, and so on and so forth. That is the class mark. So when you look at it, this is a table for it. The first one, 5.5, 15.5, 25.5, 35.5. So this is the class mark. Now another thing we need to look at is the cumulative frequency. Cumulative frequency. Cumulative frequency is derived by adding the frequency of the particular class to the frequency of the class before it. The frequency of the of a particular class and added to the class before it. If you look at the first class, the frequency is 6. The class before it, there is no class, meaning 0. So 0 plus 6 gives us 6. So the next class, the frequency is 11. The class before it, the total frequency before it is 6. So 6 plus 11 gives us 17. The next class, the frequency is 5. The total frequency before that class is 17, plus 5 gives us 22. The next class, the frequency is 8. The total frequency of the class before it is 22. 8 plus 22 gives us 30. So that is how we find cumulative frequency. Another thing we are going to look at is the measure of the central tendency, mean, media, and mode, which we'll be looking at in our next class. Once again, I'm Pisam. You can send your comments, your questions on the comments part of the video. When you check the video, check the comment under it, then you comment under it. Any advice you have or any questions you have, we'll be glad to answer you. So next class we'll meet. Thanks for watching.